Line up several angle grinder discs, and from a distance they seem interchangeable, black or silver circles with the same hole in the center. Yet one can slice through a steel bar. Another should touch metal only with its face. A third can survive concrete but chip a finished tile. Another does not truly grind at all, it strips rust away. A few millimeters of thickness, gaps around the rim, or a slight change in the abrasive angle can completely alter what the machine does. So why does one simple grinder need so many different discs, and why can choosing the wrong one become more than a bad cut? To understand the difference, we first have to stop thinking of the grinder as the tool. Let's get into it right here on Simple Things Revealed. The disc decides what the machine becomes. An angle grinder is basically a motor built to spin an attachment at enormous speed. It does not know whether it is touching steel, concrete, paint, or rust. It only provides rotation. Everything important happens where the attachment meets the surface. A thin edge concentrates force into a narrow line. A broad face spreads it across metal. Abrasive layers wear away to expose fresh material. Wire wheels rely on thousands of metal tips, while polishing pads replace rigid grit with soft fibers and compound. Same motor, same spindle. A completely different tool. Changing the disc changes where the force goes, what material it can attack, and what finish it leaves behind. Even the angle of contact can decide whether the work is clean, rough, or unsafe. The clearest proof lies in the two discs people confuse most often, one made to cut through metal and another made to grind it away. Why a thin disc cuts and a thick disc grinds? A cutting disc is usually only 1 to 2 millimeters thick. Its narrow edge removes less metal, so it passes through steel quickly. But the feature that makes it fast also makes it vulnerable. The wheel is designed to take force along the line of the cut. Push straight ahead and the reinforced disc stays within its intended plane. Twist the grinder, lean on the side, or use the flat face to smooth a weld, and the load changes direction. A wheel built to slice is suddenly being bent. At thousands of revolutions per minute, that sideways stress can crack the disc or break it apart. A grinding disc solves another problem. Often 6 millimeters thick or more, it uses its broad face to scrape material from the surface. It can flatten welds, shape steel, and remove raised edges. Held at roughly 15 to 30 degrees, it spreads the load across a stronger body. These are not stronger and weaker versions of the same wheel. Thinness gives the cutting disc speed, but little resistance to sideways pressure. Thickness gives the grinding disc strength, but makes it a poor cutter. Forcing either disc does not help. Extra pressure mainly creates heat, wears the abrasive unevenly, and makes control worse. Removing metal, however, is only half the job. After the weld is gone, the surface still has to look as though it was never there. The disc that reveals a fresh layer. That is where the flap disc takes over. Instead of one solid wheel, it uses overlapping strips of abrasive cloth around a central hub. As the outer flaps wear down, the next layers begin to work. The cutting surface changes gradually, helping the disc leave a more consistent finish than a heavy grinding wheel. Shape determines how that finish is produced. A flat flap disc works at a shallow angle. It smooths broad surfaces, blends welds into the surrounding steel, and prepares metal for paint or coating. The aim is not merely to remove the weld, but to erase the boundary it created. An angled flap disc has a conical profile. More abrasive touches the workpiece at once, so it removes material faster and follows curves or irregular contours more naturally. Grit changes the balance again. Lower grit cuts aggressively. Higher grit gives up speed for a smoother surface. On steel, zirconia, and ceramic abrasives can also run cooler and last longer than basic aluminum oxide. A flap disc does not simply grind more gently. It controls how the evidence of grinding disappears. Stone presents a different challenge. It can wear ordinary abrasives away almost as quickly as they attack it. Why stone needs diamonds? Diamond blades solve that problem by turning wear into part of the cutting process. Industrial diamonds are embedded in a metal matrix around the rim. The diamonds grind through masonry while the surrounding bond slowly erodes. As that bond wears away, new diamond particles are uncovered. The shape of the rim then decides what kind of cut the blade produces. A segmented blade has open gaps between sections of diamond-coated rim. Those spaces release heat and give dust and broken material somewhere to escape. The blade can move quickly through concrete, brick, and rough stone, even during dry cutting. The trade-off appears at the edge of the material. Because contact is repeatedly interrupted, the blade can chip porcelain, finished stone, or another brittle surface. A continuous rim blade keeps cutting contact around the entire circumference. That steadier action produces a slower, cleaner cut better suited to porcelain tile, glass, and finished stone. The unbroken rim retains more heat, so water is often used to cool the blade, extend its life, and protect the cut. One blade protects itself from heat. The other protects the material from damage. By now, the grinder has cut, shaped, and finished some of the hardest materials around. Its strangest attachments, however, do not behave like grinding discs at all. The attachments that do not really grind. A wire wheel contains no bonded abrasive. At high speed, its metal bristles strike rust, paint, oxidation, and weld scale until those layers release. The aim is to clean the surface without removing much sound metal. Twisted knot wheels bundle the wires into stiff braids. They attack heavy rust quickly, though that aggression can scratch the base metal. Crimped wire wheels keep the strands flexible and wavy, making them better for light corrosion, edge deburring, and jobs where appearance matters. There is also a material rule that is easy to miss. A carbon steel brush can embed tiny iron particles in stainless steel. Those particles may later rust, so stainless work needs a dedicated stainless steel brush. Cleaning sits at one end of the process. Polishing sits at the other. Wool or felt pads remove fine scratches fastest. Foam is gentler and better suited to painted surfaces or final finishing. Microfiber falls between them, combining light correction with polishing. Each carries compound across the surface rather than cutting on its own. Many polishing jobs work best around 3,000 to 4,000 revolutions per minute. Run the pad too fast and heat can burn the compound or damage the finish. Light pressure and slow, overlapping passes produce the shine. The same rotation that tears rust away can also create a mirror surface. Yet one attachment pushes the grinder into a material where exposed teeth create a different risk. When an angle grinder meets wood. Some purpose-built carving attachments use a few tungsten carbide teeth, shaving wood into chips instead of grinding it into dust. They can rough-shape timber, cut notches, and remove material quickly from wood, plastic, or laminate. These are rough-shaping tools with strict compatibility limits. A disc that fits the spindle may still require a particular guard, handle, speed range, or operating method. Conventional wood-cutting saw blades are especially dangerous on grinders because exposed teeth can catch, kick the machine backward, and pull it from the operator's hands. Purpose-built carbide attachments are controllable only when the grinder, guard, speed, and operating instructions all match the disc. A metal wheel must never become a woodworking substitute, and a woodworking attachment must never touch metal. Fitting is not the same as functioning safely. That rule connects every disc here. Each is designed around a material, a direction of force, and a failure it must avoid. Before any of those design differences matter, however, the label must confirm that the disc belongs on the machine at all. The label tells you more than the color. Disc color is not a reliable guide. Two wheels can look nearly identical while carrying different speed limits, dimensions, materials, and intended uses. Before mounting one, read the label. The maximum revolutions per minute printed on the disc must equal or exceed the grinder's no-load speed. Then confirm the wheel type, diameter, thickness, and material it was designed to handle. This small check explains why visual similarity can be misleading. A wheel may look right and fit the spindle, yet still be wrong for the speed or the job. The label confirms compatibility. The design explains why that compatibility matters. Every disc is a compromise. So why does one grinder need so many discs? Because no design can maximize everything at once. A thin edge cuts quickly but dislikes sideways force. A thick face survives grinding but wastes material in a cut. Gaps cool a diamond blade yet can chip a delicate edge. Flexible wire gives up aggression for control. A soft pad removes almost nothing, but that is exactly why it can polish. Every disc chooses what to protect and what to sacrifice: speed, smoothness, durability, heat control, or precision. Every advantage on one surface becomes a limitation on another. The attachment is the real tool. These attachments exist because steel, stone, tile, rust, paint, and wood all respond differently to force. Each demands a particular contact point and a different balance between speed, control, and finish. The motor may remain unchanged, but the job does not. Swap the disc and the direction of force changes. So do the risk, the surface left behind, and the material the tool can handle. An angle grinder may look like one tool. In practice, it becomes a new machine every time the disc changes. Which attachment surprised you most? The layered flap disc, the diamond blade, or the wire wheel? Share your choice below and subscribe to STR for more hidden engineering behind ordinary tools.